In today's example, we are going to look at backing up our files and folders from our Windows machine on-premise to Azure. But before we continue with this demo, I would like to talk about the difference between MARS and MABS. You can back up your on-premise Windows machine's physical on-site server directly to Azure by using the Azure Backup Microsoft Azure Recovery Service, which is the MARS agent. Now note that Linux machines with the MARS agent are not supported. It is only for Windows. And this is what I'm going to show you in today's demo, how we can back up files and folders. Now, if you would like to back up an entire server, which is on-premise, then what you would need to do is you would need to have a separate server on-premise. This is not an agent. This is an entire software that you would have to install on that backup server. And then you can back up that entire backup server to Recovery Services Vault. If I scroll down all the way down, there's a very neat explanation. MARS agent backs up data directly to Azure, that is to the Recovery Services Vault. However, Microsoft Azure Backup Server backups the data to the local storage first, and then MARS agent installed on the MABS server backs up the local storage to the Vault. So it's a hop. It's a double hop with MABS. So first, with MABS, you back up your data to the local storage, and then using MARS agent on the MABS server, you back up to the Vault. MARS agent is easy to install and manage, whereas MABS is a little complex and used for setups that run multiple different variants of workloads. For example, VMware, Hyper-V, SQL Server, Microsoft SharePoint. It is more advanced. So what I'm going to do in this example is I'm going to explain the MARS agent backup. And in my other video, I shall explain the MABS server backup. In this tutorial, I have set up a on-premise virtual machine, which is a Windows 11 machine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up only this folder. And in this folder, I'll back up these two files to Azure, and then I'll delete one of these files and then recover from them. So let me go back to the portal. And over here, I've already created a Recovery Services Vault. So let's click on that. Let's click on the plus sign of backups and select on-premise backups. And what do I want to back up on-premise? So in this case, I'm only going to use the files and folders option and click prepare infrastructure. But I want you to note one thing over here. When I click on prepare infrastructure, it says download agent for Microsoft Server or Windows client. This is the MARS agent. If I go back one step and if I click on, let's say, SQL Server or SharePoint, and if I click on prepare infrastructure, I will get the MABS software, which is not the same as the MARS software. So let me go back, uncheck these two and check the files and folders, prepare infrastructure. Now we need to download the agent. So I've already done that. And then I need to download the Vault credentials, which I will use to connect to my Azure. So if I go back into my on-premise virtual machine, over here you can see that I have already downloaded the the MARS agent installer. Click on yes. I leave the installation settings at default. Install. Once installation is complete, you need to register this server on Azure. So let's proceed to registration. Now it's asking you for the Vault credentials that we downloaded. So I have copied my Vault credentials on the desktop. Now if I browse to the location, desktop, click on Vault credentials, it's validating my credentials. Click on next. Let's click on get passphrase. So I need to save the passphrase in a secure location and not on the existing server where I am installing the agent on, because if there's a disaster, then Microsoft cannot recover your data. So let's browse. Let's copy this on the desktop for now. And now if I click on finish, it's going to give me a warning message saying that do not copy this on the same machine. You shouldn't store it on the same machine, but since this is a test environment, I'm just going to save it over here to save time. Click on save. Now it's registering my server with Microsoft Azure Backup. So my server has been registered successfully. I have a warning sign saying storing the passphrase locally can lead to passphrase loss or deletions. All it's saying that do not store the passphrase on your local machine. And this is just a test, so I'm going to save it and ignore that error. Let's launch the agent. And if I go back into my portal, go into my Recovery Services Vault, go into Backup Infrastructure, and over here I can see that I have one agent, the Azure Backup agent, and my server is over here, KZCCLABS. Great. Now let's set up a backup. We cannot set up a backup from the Azure portal. We have to set it up from the agent itself. So if I go into Actions, click on Schedule a Backup. Let's click on Next. Let's add the items that I would want to backup. I can backup an entire C drive to the cloud, but that will take a lot of time. So for this example, I shall just backup the folder that I created on my desktop. So if I'll just back up this folder over here. And click on Next. I'll select the day I want to back it up at 10, and I can select 3 times. I can select 3 backups, so 3 timings. So I'll just leave it at 1 backup for now. So my day backup is at 10 o'clock, and this has been kept for 180 days. My weekly retention policy is taken every Saturday at 10 p.m. for 104 weeks. Obviously, you can change this according to your needs and specifications. The same goes for monthly retentions, where your backups taken on the last week of every week will be kept for 60 months. And your yearly backups that are taken at the last week of March will be kept for 10 years. Now note that the timings are similar. So if you want to have different timings, what you would need to do is you would need to add another time over here. So let's add 3 times, and now you will see that you have the option to select backups at 3 different times. Let's click on Next. Transfer over the network. This is an online way of doing it. Obviously, you can transfer your data using the Azure Data Box, which is like a physical transfer. So let's do an online transfer, not an offline transfer. Click on Finish. So my backup schedule has been created successfully. Let's close. And now let's go on backup now, because I do not want to wait for my schedule to trigger. I'm going to select retain my backup till tomorrow, which is fine. This is the backup folder that I want to backup. And the backup is in progress. It's taking a snapshot. So my backup is successfully completed. Now let's close the wizard. go back into my Azure portal, go into my recovery services vault, and if I see backed up items, I can see that I have one item backed up with my Azure Backup agent, which is the C drive. So this has been backed up to my vault. Now what I can do is I can go back into my machine, minimize my agent, delete both these files, and now recover these two files. So let me go back. Let's click on recover data. I would like to recover the data to this server. I have the option to choose another server as well. So click on next, click on individual files and folders, select a volume. So the data that I backed up my data on, click on mount. It is mounting my recovery volume. As you can see now, it has recovered in the E drive. So let's browse the E drive. Click on users. My desktop, my folder, and let's copy the two files that were deleted and go to the desktop and copy my files over here. Once my files are copied, I can unmount the drive. Now you can see that my drive isn't here and my recovery has been completed. Now to uninstall the agent, what you would need to do first is you would need to go back into your portal. Let's go into the recovery services vault. Let's go into the backup infrastructure, the agent, select the agent, and let's delete this. Over here, we need to put in the name of our machine. So let's copy this, paste it, the reason why you want to delete, and say test. And there is a backup. Yes, I know. So I would just want to delete this backup because I'm done with it. The server cannot be registered. Hybrid backups. Okay, fine, great. So what I need to do is I need to go into my backed up items. And I need to go into properties. I need to go into security settings. I need to stop the soft delete. Soft delete has been stopped. Go back into backup infrastructure. Click on the agent and delete the agent. Let's copy the name. Let's try this. And now the deletion is successful. So what we had to do is we had to go into the properties and stop the soft deletes. If I now go back into my backup infrastructure and refresh this, I shall see that the count is 0. Now let's go back into our virtual machine, close this, and you can safely go into control panel, programs and features, remove the Azure Recovery Services agent. Click on uninstall. and you have successfully removed the Microsoft Azure Recovery Services agent. So in this video, I showed you how to download the Mars agent, install it on your on-premise server, back up the on-premise files and folders, then recover that from the Azure portal, and then finally uninstall the agent. I hope this video was informative for you, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you.